Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Arch Linux for Content Creators series. In this video, we'll be talking about music production on Arch Linux. More specifically, we're going to briefly outline some of the various DAWs available to Linux, install some basic Linux plugins to get you started, and discuss how to make Windows plugins work under Linux as well. I'm assuming that you already have most of the necessary hardware for music production, i.e. an audio interface, some nice headphones, a MIDI controller, etc. So we're not going to be talking about hardware in this video. I may make a guide on music hardware in the future, but if you're a complete beginner, there are already some pretty helpful videos out there that can give you an idea of the essentials. With that being said, I feel like it's important to mention that I really wouldn't consider myself much of a music producer. I mainly just make small songs and covers and am by no means an expert. The information in this video is going to be very surface level, as intended to give you a general idea of what is currently available on Linux in terms of music production. So first, let's talk about why you should use Linux for music production. Linux offers a lot of choices in terms of software for music production and audio engineering. The main reason music producers gravitate towards Linux is the amount of control you have over your entire audio system. With the recent development of tools like Pipewire and WirePlumber, you can have a significant amount of control over both your audio hardware and your system's audio routing. Windows audio control is extremely limited without installing dedicated software like Voicemeeter and virtual audio cables to manage internal audio connections. On top of that, Windows also requires the ASIO driver to get optimal latency when using software like FL Studio. The ASIO driver requires exclusive control over your audio device, which can be really annoying if you're wanting to record or stream while working in your audio workspace. Linux technically has the same issue when using only ALCC, the Advanced Linux Sound Architecture. But unlike on Windows, Linux provides a variety of sound servers that allow you to work around the exclusive device issue. In Linux, ALCC provides exclusive access of your sound card to the sound server of your choosing. The sound server then handles the audio routing for all of your applications and allows you to send basically any input to any output and vice versa. This allows you to have a massive amount of control over your audio system without significantly increasing latency or sacrificing compatibility. Now, Linux does have its own issues with sound as well. It's not all perfect. For one, having more control over your sound means having more points of failure and places where things can go wrong.
Alright, so we've got our microphone configured differently, and we've got different filters and stuff. Different filters.
While audio devices are plug and play on Linux, to get the most benefit out of your audio cards, you'll probably want to do some manual configuration of your devices. With this configuration comes some pitfalls if you don't know what you're doing. Incorrect configuration can cause weird audio glitches, increased latency, and overall instability. Thankfully, resetting the system after giving a bad configuration isn't too difficult, but it can be just another distraction and annoyance when trying to use your computer. It probably goes without saying at this point in the series, but another major downside to using Linux for music production is having to learn an entirely new workflow. Unless you already use Reaper, you're going to have to learn a new DAW to create music on Linux, as any other DAW you're probably familiar with won't work natively on Linux. Software support is the main hindrance for most people when it comes to switching to Linux in general. Hopefully, as Linux becomes more popular, big companies will decide to develop native versions of their software. But unfortunately, we're still not there yet. With that being said, let's talk about some of the DAWs that are available on Linux. So just to get this out of the way, some of the more popular DAWs that won't work on Linux at all are Pro Tools, Logic Pro, and Cubase. Ableton Live and FL Studio aren't natively supported on Linux, but can be run with minimal issues using a compatibility layer like Wine. There are a handful of good DAWs that will run natively under Linux, most of which will need a paid license of some kind, but there are some FOSS options available as well. Some of the paid options available are Reaper, Bitwig Studio, and Renoise. FOSS options include Ardour, Traction Waveform, and Z-Rhythm. Of these DAWs, I would probably recommend learning either Reaper or Ardour. Reaper isn't FOSS, but it's probably the most fully featured DAW that I've seen on Linux that didn't seem incredibly intimidating to me. Additionally, Reaper is supported on Windows and Mac as well, if you ever needed to switch between multiple operating systems for whatever reason. Ardour is another great choice, and is the most fully featured FOSS DAW currently available. Ardour is what many Linux music producers recommend for those making the switch to Linux. Ardour can be compiled yourself for free, seeing as the project is open source, however it does offer some paid licenses if you want to support the developers, which I'd highly recommend if you're interested. The other FOSS DAWs are still fairly early in development or have a focus on specific use cases, so you'll want to do some research into each of them and figure out which one of them best fit your preferences. If you're unsure of which DAW you should start learning, here are some of the things I would look for when researching. The easiest way to narrow things down first is the price. Obviously, if you don't have a lot of extra money to spend, looking at some of the FOSS options I mentioned will probably be where I'd start. If you don't mind paying for your software after you've had some time to learn it, all of the paid options I mentioned offer generous, fully featured, time-limited free trials that let you try before you buy. If you've never touched a DAW in your life, then I'd highly recommend choosing a DAW that has a good amount of tutorials available online. This is part of the reason I recommended Reaper or Ardour, as both are well documented online and have many YouTube tutorials available for pretty much anything you'd want to do in the software. While it may be tempting to go for one of the FOSS options as a beginner, just wanting to try stuff out, some of the ones I listed are in early development and may not have much information about them, or may be subject to change later on down the line. As with learning any software, the thing that's going to take the most amount of time to adjust to is learning the UI. If you have experience with another DAW before making the switch to Linux, it may be useful to pick a DAW that has a similar looking interface that complements your workflow. For instance, if you're familiar with Ableton Live, some people say that Bitwig Studio feels somewhat similar, whereas Ardour feels a bit more like Pro Tools. If none of the other DAWs feel right to you, Reaper is known for its highly customizable interface and gives you probably the most options for designing your own workspace. If you've already got some experience with music production and have a library of plugins that you already like to use, then a DAW's plugin support is worth looking into. Not all plugins use the same format, and not all DAWs support all formats. Plugins, like most files, come in a variety of different formats. For instance, if you already have an extensive LV2 plugin library, you probably want to avoid using Bitwig Studio, which doesn't have native LV2 support. These formats basically determine what operating systems and software the plugins can be used with, and should be taken into consideration when considering a DAW to work with on Linux. So now that we've talked about some of the DAWs available to Linux, hopefully you have an idea of one or two you'd like to try out. Unlike with the DAWs you see on Windows or Mac, you may find that different DAWs have different strong suits. Because of this, installing multiple DAWs and hopping between them can make your workflow easier than trying to brute force everything in one DAW. Most of these DAWs can be installed via the AUR, or can be compiled yourself if you decided to use something like Ardour. Once you've installed your DAW of choice, we can start installing plugins for it. Now, depending on the DAW that you've just installed, you probably won't have much of a plugin selection to choose from. Thankfully, installing plugins is just as easy as installing the DAW. In the third video of the series, we talked about some of the more advanced ways of configuring our audio system to optimize latency when using Pipewire, but we also talked about installing some plugins for basic audio effects. If you haven't watched that video, I'll quickly go over some of the plugins I recommend installing to give you a good starting point. The first suite of plugins that I recommend is the Linux Studio Plugins project. This is a group of open source plugins that comes with a bunch of useful effects like equalizers, compressors, gates, reverb, and much more. They come in various different formats and should work with any DAW. These plugins are useful for pretty much any recording from vocals to instruments and everything in between. Another useful group of plugins you can install is from the Arch Linux repository themselves. Arch Linux provides a few audio plugin groups that provide a handful of useful plugins if you're unsure of what you need, and you can customize which plugins from the group are installed if there are only a few plugins that you're interested in. Or, if you're looking for a group with specific plugin formats, the Arch repos also provides groups for LV2 plugins, VST plugins, and many more. If you're looking to change the sound of your guitar in your DAW, then the GuitarX and the gxplugins.lv2 plugins are going to give you basically any guitar effect that you'd need. These will allow you to use all kinds of different pedals and amplifiers to craft the exact sound that you want out of your guitar recordings. There are plugins for distortion, wah, overdrive, reverb, delay, and many more. If you ever used Native Instruments Guitar Rig plugin, it's a somewhat less streamlined version of that. Once you've got them all installed, all you need to do is make your own pedal chain by selecting the pedals you want. Alternatively, there is a standalone application that allows you to use presets other users have made and lets you turn your PC into a multi-effects guitar pedal. If you're wanting some digital instruments to try out, I'd recommend Surge XT and Vital, as they are fantastic free synthesizers that give you a lot of built-in presets to play around with. For good drum plugins, many people recommend Hydrogen and Citala. Plugins that I've listed so far really only scratch the surface of what's available, and cover most of your bases assuming your DAW of choice didn't come with any plugins whatsoever. However, if you wanted to search out even more plugins that work well with Linux DAWs, the website linuxdaw.org lists hundreds of both paid and free plugins available for use with Linux DAWs, and provides links to where you can download them. Hopefully after following this last section, you have a pretty good assortment of plugins to play around with. But what if you have some Windows plugins that you really just want to use? Well, thankfully there is a compatibility tool called YawBridge, which allows a large majority of Windows-only plugins to work in Linux DAWs. To install YawBridge, you'll first need to install Wine. At this point in the series, many of you will have probably installed some version of Wine by now. However, YawBridge is particularly picky about the version of Wine you need to install for the best compatibility. As mentioned in the GitHub page for YawBridge, you will need to install Wine Staging version 9.21 or below. As of recording this video, Wine Staging is currently on version 11.8 in the Arch repos, so if you already got Wine installed, you'll have a couple of options on how to make YawBridge work. If you don't have a specific reason to run the most recent version of Wine above version 9.21, the easiest way to get YawBridge to work is to downgrade the version of Wine Staging your system is using by using the downgrade command and selecting version 9.21 from the list. Make sure that you add Wine Staging to the pacman ignore package list when prompted, otherwise it will be replaced with a newer version the next time you upgrade your packages. You may need to remake any other Wine prefixes you created before the downgrade. If you don't want to downgrade your system Wine, you can also download the Wine Staging binary and set up a specific directory that holds both your custom Wine prefix and the Wine Staging 9.21 files. This requires some extra steps initially, but allows you to keep your YawBridge plugin environments isolated from the rest of your Wine applications. If you don't want to set up Wine prefixes manually, then you can also use a management software like Bottles to create and manage Wine prefixes for you. There is a GitHub page called YawBridge Bottles Wine Loader that gives detailed instructions and a script to run to use YaBridge with bottles for a more user-friendly configuration. As a disclaimer, I have not personally followed the instructions on this page, as I prefer to manage my wine prefixes manually, but I wanted to include this guide as an alternative for those who are a bit less comfortable with using terminal commands. My method of choice is to make an isolated wine prefix, so I'll quickly go over the steps for that here. First, extract the wine staging package you downloaded to where you want to store your prefix files. In this case, I'm going to rename the extracted folder to DAW plugins and move it to my home directory. Now that we've got our directory in place, let's create a folder inside of this directory for our prefix files. We'll need to tell Wine to generate the prefix files. To do this, we'll need to configure some environment variables that tell the terminal to use the Wine version we just downloaded to create the prefix, not our system Wine. The variables we'll need to set are Wine Loader, Wine Server, and Wine Prefix. You can export these to make the terminal session apply these for each command, but I'm just going to specify them for each wine command I run. Adjust the commands shown here to match the path where your wine files are located. Now that we've got our variables defined, we can create the prefix by running any wine command. Now that we've got our wine prefix created, we can install our plugins. Again, we'll need to make sure that these variables are set before we run the installer, so we don't use the system wine. Now to run the installer, use wine and give the path to your installer. Regardless of the method you chose to set up your wine installation with, plugins will be installed via wine and installation will be just like in Windows. You'll find the installer of a plugin you want from their website, download it, and follow the setup wizard. After we've got our plugins installed in the wine prefix we set up earlier, we need to tell YaBridge where the plugin DLLs are kept. Plugins will almost always be installed to one of the following directories. To add the directories as places to search for plugins with YaBridge, execute the following command: YaBridge add, and then insert your desired file path. Once you've added all your desired file paths to YaBridge, we need to tell it to scan the directories for plugins using the sync option, YaBridge sync. This will create Linux-supported versions of these plugins and place them in the appropriate folders. These folders being .vst/YaBridge, .vst3YaBridge, etc. Now to use these plugins in our DAW of choice, we need to tell our DAW to search these directories for plugins. Most Linux DAWs will have already configured these directories, but if not, there should be an option in your plugin settings to add or change the file path, as we can see here in Reaper. Now as a word of caution, Windows plugins running through Wine may come with a handful of small issues. First, plugins running through Wine will always require slightly more resources than an identical plugin running natively under Linux. Assuming you've got a decent PC, running a couple of Windows plugins won't be a big issue, but if you're going to be running 10 plus simultaneously, that may lead to audio glitches or slow down your interface. Secondly, some Windows plugins aren't particularly stable when running under Wine. The vast majority of plugins will install and run normally, but some plugins may just show a blank screen or crash your DAW when loaded. Some plugins may technically work, but can be difficult to initially install. For example, Native Instruments plugins will work under Wine, but it takes a very specific procedure to get the Native Access app to work under Wine. Because of these reasons, it's generally better to run Linux native plugins when possible, but if your favorite plugin is only available on Windows, trying to run it through YaBridge is probably worth it. So before we start testing out our DAW, we want to make a slight change to our user to optimize latency and performance when working with professional audio software. We'll need to make sure that our user is able to request real-time scheduling for any application that needs it. This can be done by installing the Realtime Privileges package and adding our user to the Realtime group using the command sudo usermod-a-g realtime user. After doing this, you'll need to log out and log back in or reboot the PC for the group changes to apply. Now that we've got everything ready to go, I'm going to show you a couple of tips to get things configured properly in your DAW. As I've mentioned previously, my DAW of choice is Reaper, so that's how I'm going to be running the plugins that we've just installed. Before we open Reaper, I want to give a quick fix to an issue that I had when I first ran Reaper. Now I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I use a 4K monitor with my system. For the most part, Linux has gotten quite a bit better at handling scaling for high DPI monitors, but some applications are still quite a bit behind in offering intuitive UI scaling. Reaper is one such application. When I first tried using Reaper, I found the interface to be way too small. The only scaling in the application itself scales the UI buttons and meters, but not the overall text of the application. However, you can tell Reaper to scale everything by adjusting its configuration file directly in .config reaper.ini. In this file, we can add a section called .swell if it isn't already present, and within this section, we can add a variable called UI scale. This variable will tell Reaper to scale everything by this amount, not just the buttons and meters. For instance, I set this variable to 1.5 to scale Reaper UI by 150%, which looks pretty comfortable in my monitor, without being too big. This is something I spent a good amount of time trying to fix, so I thought it'd be worth including here for anyone running into the same issue. Okay, now that we've got Reaper scaled properly, we can load up a project. For this demonstration, I'll just be using a default empty project to start out with. Before we start adding anything, let's make sure that our DAW is looking in the right place for plugins. In Reaper, we can do this by selecting Options, Preferences, and then navigating to the Plugins option. Under the plugin subsection, we'll see the different plugin types that Reaper supports. If we select the VST option, we are able to define paths for the VST plugins we have installed. We can define multiple search paths by separating each path with a semicolon. At minimum, you'll want to have .vst and .vst3 in this path. If you've installed plugins using yaw bridge, keep in mind that Linux converted plugins will be stored in these directories, so you won't need to specify the path that Wine originally installed your plugins to. If you've got some extra LV2 or clap plugins, we can also set those up here. Because most Linux native plugins are going to be one of these two formats, you'll notice that there are a couple more paths included here by default. This ensures that plugins that you install system-wide via Pacman or the AUR are recognized by Reaper, as well as any other custom plugins that you've placed in the .lv2 or .clap folders. Another option that you have with Reaper is to install the Repack plugin, which gives you a package manager that lets you install various user-submitted plugins and themes for Reaper. For instance, if I search themes in the Repack packages and select the Rado V5 Arctic, it'll install the theme. Now I can go over to Options, Themes, and we can select the new theme that we just installed. I actually really like the way this theme looks. It gives Reaper an old school sort of makeover. I don't know, I just like it. Before we start adding plugins though, let's talk about how Reaper configures its I/O. By default, most Linux DAWs are going to use the jack audio system, as it's going to provide the lowest latency with the highest configurability compared to other audio systems used in other software, like the Pulse audio system. If you've got Pipewire installed on your system, this will run through the Pipewire jack package. Reaper will automatically route your inputs and outputs. In some cases, it may not be configured the way that you want it. If Reaper doesn't find the audio devices that you want to use, or puts them in a weird order, we can use an application like Carla or QPW Graph to wire specific audio devices to the Reaper application. For instance, as I've demonstrated in the advanced audio configuration video, I have a couple of custom virtual audio devices that I use to organize the audio on my system. Reaper isn't going to pick these devices up by default. It'll jump straight to my actual hardware. This is a reasonable default behavior because this is going to give the lowest latency with minimal points of failure. But because I know my audio configuration is stable and has negligible latency, I want to tell Reaper to use my virtual sinks and sources instead. So to map the virtual source, I'm just going to disconnect the input from my Scarlett here and instead wire the output of microphone effects to input 1 of Reaper. I'm going to leave the second input connected because we'll be using that for guitar or bass input. Now, to configure the output, I'm going to rewire the outputs connected to Reaper from the Scarlett to my main audio sync. Now, if we expand the input devices on the side here, we can see that the device name has updated to reflect the changes that we made in QPW Graph. You can adjust the default jack behavior in Preferences, Audio, Devices, but really the only thing you should adjust here is the number of I/O ports and whether jack should automatically map to channels. If you disable the auto mapping, then you'll have to use Carla or QJackCTL to configure all of the Reaper I/O manually. Hopefully after watching this video, you have a general understanding of how to get into music production on Linux. We've discussed some of the pros and cons to using Linux for making music, outlined some of the DAWs available natively, and discussed how to install enough plugins so that you can get started creating. There's a lot to cover on this topic. There are many different ways that you can set up your audio, and there are many different applications that you can use to create music. I try to keep this video as general as possible, while still covering most of the common questions people have when getting started with audio production on Linux. This video marks the end of what I originally had planned for the Arch Linux for Content Creators series. However, I'd definitely be open to making more videos for this series if there's enough demand for it. With that being said, I'll definitely continue making Linux videos on this channel. They won't necessarily fall under the umbrella of content creation, but will focus more on various things that I've learned in my Linux journey. If you have any suggestions on future videos for this channel, future videos for the series, or if you have any questions regarding how to get things set up, please let me know in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care!